Hey guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night 94 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother season 25. Welcome to Saturday. Y'all realize this is the last Saturday of Big Brother that we have for this season. Yeah, we're right there at the very end of it, which made overnight conversations and feeds a little difficult. Not a lot going on. We did have a veto competition in which we need to talk about, and we had two very key conversations. Things are afoot. Now we'll see what happens tomorrow night as far as who goes home, but there's nothing guaranteed right now. So we're going to talk about that. But let's start off with the final four veto competition we had. It was yesterday instead of Saturday because we have this accelerated schedule. So we did our veto competition yesterday, a competition that both Felicia and Jag had said they felt like their very life was hinging on winning this thing. So the most important veto competition of the season. Yeah, they had it, and the veto winner is Jag. Of course it is. Would you expect me to say anything? But now Jag won the veto competition. With that win, he now has 7 wins. He breaks the season record for the most number of comp wins that was just set last year by Michael with 6. Well, now Jag has 7 veto wins. He's just dominated that stuff. We had, I think it was Corey who earlier in the season said, I don't care about HOHs. It's vetoes that are important in this game. It's vetoes I want to win. Well, Jag certainly won. So many of them, and it has certainly helped his game as well. So congratulations to Jag for winning yet another veto competition, the final veto competition of the year. So now he is in the final 3, has punched his ticket. It will be he and Bowie Jane in the final 3. The question to be decided Sunday night, who's going home, Felicia or Matt? Who's joining Jag and Bowie Jane in the final 3? And as I mentioned, it's not 100% guaranteed just who that's going to be just yet. All right, the competition itself, before we move on to the feeds, the competition involved days, events like they've been planning for forever. They had to know what day certain events happened on. Apparently, there were some hard ones. I heard mention Red's birthday, communications from the netherworld, things like that they had to remember. I guess the dates maybe were on tiles of some sort. It sounds like they had to run back and forth. It sounds like they were all competing at the same time, but they couldn't see each other. They had walls up or something, but they're all trying to place tiles chronological based on different dates. Sounds like maybe there was some kind of a puzzle that had to be solved. In my mind, I'm picturing one of those slide puzzles that you had to get them in the right position, but I'm not sure that's the case. But a little bit of a puzzle, but primarily remembering days that different events occurred. So that was a competition. Now, Bowie Jane, after it was over, she has said several times yesterday, saying, thank God we got the memory comp over. Now we don't have to worry about days anymore and all that. Well, sometimes you still have it as part of the 3-part final HOH. So she better not wipe that memory completely gone, because you may need it again, Bowie Jane. But the key is that they did have the memory competition. Jag has won the veto. Jag is now going to the final 3. All right, we've got let's talk about the feeds. I think the feed that was around noonish or so when they had that take place. So we'll go ahead and talk about feeds a little bit. Yeah, feeds were back just a little bit before noon. The house guests also now have their tiny table, a little table just for 4, which doesn't sound like a big deal. It was a huge deal during my season. It just was another milestone that you knew you'd made it to the end when you had that little tiny table. So they finally got their tiny table for 4. All right, feeds are back just before noon. We've got Bowie and Felicia in the kitchen. Felicia's in there eating a little bit. Bowie Jane comes in to I think fix a salad or something. So they talk for just a little bit. Felicia mentions to Bowie Jane that she has had a premonition that she makes it to finale night. So she's still counting on that mustard seed. They're talking a little bit about past alliances that maybe didn't go anywhere, and just a little general chit chat for just a second. But before long at all, Bowie takes her salad, goes up to the HOH room to eat. I guess she didn't really want to eat with Felicia. So she heads upstairs, leaving Felicia downstairs alone again. Matt and Jag, I think, are in the scary room at this point in time. So we did have that. All right, yeah, we did have Matt and Jag in the scary room. They're talking about what's going to happen the rest of the week, including Jag's mentioning that they're going to have this upcoming episode, the reminiscing episode, where the three house guests sit down. We know it's going to be three house guests. It's going to be on the Tuesday episode, I think, where they sit down and reminisce about past house guests and past events. And, oh, do you remember this? And, oh, wasn't that funny when this and this? So we're right at the end when they start talking about that. So they're mentioning that a little bit. Jag is talking about how much campaigning, wondering what Felicia is going to do with her campaigning. He mentions that he's already annoyed with it. He just won veto. He's already annoyed with Felicia's campaigning. So they're ready just to have this Sunday eviction done with, so they can move on. All right, we've got Bowie and Matt in the HOH room talking a little bit. Matt saying that Felicia's already working on her final two speech. You got to be the optimist, right? It doesn't hurt to have one ready. It probably puts you in a little bit better mood to be thinking about that to some degree. But he said, yeah, she's already working on it. He's saying that Felicia had mentioned to him that if Matt didn't win this veto, he would be gone, that Jag was going to be sending out Matt if he didn't win it. So Matt's a little bit worried about that. Bowie Jane's denying it, saying it's just Felicia. And so, but Matt's obviously thought a little bit about, is he in a precarious position, that it is him versus Felicia, and Felicia's gotten in his head a little bit, saying if you didn't win this, Jag is going to vote you out. Well, now you haven't won it. So Bowie's trying to calm Matt down, but he certainly is thinking about it. We did have one of the two, I think, bigger conversations that took place yesterday and last night. And this was Felicia pitching to Jag in the scary room. We didn't really see Felicia pitching much at all to Bowie Jane. And other than maybe a little side conversation with Matt, talking about maybe Matt's in trouble, not a whole lot of pitching as well. Jag's the one who controls everything. So Felicia's keeping all of her campaigning primarily to Jag at this point in time. So she's pitching to Jag in the scary room. I think Jag may have been napping a little bit when Felicia came in. So she might have even caught him a little off guard, but she's putting the full press on him. Felicia's saying, just so you know, Matt was prepared to cut you, Jag, if he had won this veto. She's saying, he was going to come after you, so why wouldn't you come after him? She's saying that she knows that it will absolutely hurt Jag to have to cut Matt, but that Matt was ready to do it yesterday. She mentions that Matt was ready to cut you, Jag, and Jag says, well, when did he say this? And she says, well, he was just telling me yesterday when he thought his life was on the line before when it was, we weren't sure what was going to happen with HOH and all that. He was saying at that time that he was ready to cut you to try to survive and move forward. So she's letting Jag know that, if he's willing to cut you, wouldn't you be willing to do it as well? Because she is saying that Matt had just told her as late as yesterday. Jag is asking how he knows that's true. How can he determine that that's true, that Matt actually had said that to Felicia? And Felicia's saying, look, I don't make stuff up. She says, now I'll feed information to people. I'll certainly do that. She said, but I don't make stuff up. And you can go ask Matt that. Ask Matt if he didn't tell me that, because I don't lie. I don't make stuff up, Jag, and it is what he said. And she said, just go ask Matt directly. Go see what he says. She's reminding Jag, also saying, you remember back when Cirie had told me that Matt had said that he would cut Jag a little bit later. She says, first of all, I'm the one that brought you that information. And she said, well, guess what? Later is today or tomorrow. She says that this is when he was planning to do it. Cirie told me a long time ago. I told you at the time, and now we're at that point. Matt was ready to cut you loose. This is when he wanted to do it, Jag. She's saying that Jag and Matt both played good games, which is why it would be so dangerous for Jag to take Matt to the final two. She's saying he played a fantastic game. Are you wanting to take the risk and take him to the very end? Are you so comfortable about the game that you played that you're willing to take Matt to the end and potentially risk losing because you do that? So she's getting in Jag's head pretty well at this point. Jag is saying that, look, even if all this is true and all that, and say I did keep you tomorrow and didn't send you out the door, he said, what would keep you from cutting me loose at final three? That doesn't really help me anyway. Well, first of all, beating Felicia as opposed to beating Matt, and the possibility of Felicia controlling the final decision about who to take to final two, as opposed to Matt having that final decision. Probably a little bit better chances that Matt's going to be the one making the decision. But Jag thinking every scenario through, he's saying, even if all of this is true, and I kept you, what keeps you from cutting me at final three and taking Bowie Jane instead? And she's saying, well, look, there's no way I'm taking Bowie Jane to the final two. I'm just not going to do it. She says, Felicia, or she says, Bowie Jane has looked at me as completely irrelevant in this game forever, that she's not treated me well, and that I want someone to win this game who played an honest game. And Jag, that's you, not Bowie Jane. It's you, Jag. So yeah, you say that, but there's no way that I'm going to go to the final two with Bowie Jane. I'm not sure I absolutely buy that. I think Felicia would take whoever she thought was the best possibility of her beating, and I can't imagine that being Jag at this point in time. But she's telling Jag, now, if you keep me, if I get to make the decision, you and me to the very end, my friend. All right, Jag is mentioning that Bowie Jane has won the most HOHs, that she has never been on the block. And Felicia saying, yeah, that's really impressive, isn't it? It's incredibly impressive. Felicia's also mentioning, she said, also just remember, Bowie Jane threw a lot of competitions at the beginning of this thing. Yeah, she's won all those HOHs. How many comps could she have won if she hadn't been throwing stuff at the very beginning? And I think she's trying to plant a little bit of seed in Jag's head that maybe Bowie Jane would be a little bit tougher to beat in this 3-part final HOH anyway. And I don't know. And if Jag's having to compete with Bowie Jane and Matt, he's got 3 strong competitors. Whereas here's Felicia saying, if you keep me, I'm not taking Bowie Jane. So if I win it, you're good. If you win it, you're good. You just have to deal with Bowie Jane at that point in time. So Felicia's selling with everything she's got left in the tank. Felicia's asking Matt or Jag. Jag keeps saying, I can't, I don't know who's telling the truth. I talked to you and I believe you. I talked to Matt and I believe Matt. I don't know. And Felicia's saying, well, you just have to go with your gut. Here's what I do. She says, you need to just ask yourself, what makes more sense? And she says, does it make sense for either Matt or Bowie Jane to take you to the final two, knowing how you've won all these vetoes and how strong a player you are? Does it really make sense in your gut that either one of them would take you to the final two if they had a choice? And Jag says, yeah, but does it make sense that you would take me to the final two as well over Bowie Jane? Well, she didn't have a good response for that, other than what she'd already said. She's not taking Bowie Jane. All right, Felicia is saying that she was the one, reminding him that she was the one feeding him information way back about Cirie passing on the information that Matt had said that he would cut Jag, and Jag saying, yeah, I remember it. And Jag saying, but just to talk about that, he says, apparently Cirie swore on the Bible that Matt hadn't ever told her that. And that she never told you anything of the sort. She swore in the Bible that was not the case. Felicia's all awestruck, saying, I can't believe she would do it, that she would swear in the Bible. No, she did it. And yeah, I'm amazed that she actually would do that given those circumstances. And Jag saying, well, I can't call anyone a liar that swore on a Bible. But Felicia denying it, saying, now he told me, I told her, I don't care what she swore on. That is what happened. She does say, again, that she doesn't lie about anything. She said, I've never lied to you. It's all just about passing on the information. I feel like maybe there's been a few little untruths told here and there, but that's part of Big Brother. But she says, I just pass on information. She says, look, if you're uncertain about who's willing to tell or who's telling truth, she said, I'm willing to sit in a room with you and Matt. Let's all just sit together, call them in. Let's talk about it. House meeting. She's ready to do it. She's ready to get the two of them up against each other, I suppose. But Jag says, yeah, I think I want to talk to Matt one-on-one first. Let me talk to him before we start doing anything like that. Felicia finishes up by saying that Matt's going to hang with Bowie Jane for the next 2 days and convince her that she needs to send out Jag as well. The more time they spend together, the more Jag's on the outs. between the two of them. And with that, she walks out the door. Jag is not really talking to the cameras, just talking to himself, saying, "Damn, damn, damn." So it does appear that she may have gotten his head, especially based on some conversations we have a little bit later as well. So that's the first of the two big conversations. We then have Felicia up in the HOH room with Bowie and Matt. Really not strategy talk. They're talking about the competition and how they tried to solve it and how fast Jag was and all of that. And basically just talking about how boring it is in the house and there's nothing to do, how glad they are they got cards. Felicia wants to go back and see what other house guests got towards the end of the season that kept them from being bored. We got cards. That's all we got either. So enjoy what you got, Felicia. You may not have to worry about it for too much longer. All right, we've got Jag and Matt and Bowie Jane up in the HOH room talking a little bit, comparing notes and such. Bowie Jane is talking about Felicia, saying Felicia's going to still think that she's winning. Even if she's heading out the door, she's still going to be trying to figure out how to win this thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. Again, you got to stay an optimist in there or else that house will just pull you apart. She's talking about Matt dancing. They're all talking about Matt maybe doing some dancing as part of the eviction, dancing for Felicia. Seems a little, you got to be careful with that. Someone's going home, but if it's Felicia and her game is at the end, I just don't think that it's proper or respectful to be too excited while the person is still there, seeing their life end in front of them. Yeah, I know it's not a real life; it's just a game, but still. So if he's going to be doing some dancing, you got to be very careful about the way you do it, so it doesn't come off as being, just kind of callous, right? So we'll see how it works out. But they're talking about maybe that he'll do some dancing for Felicia as part of the eviction itself. Jag wants to know when the veto ceremony is going to be held. We just had the veto. We've got the eviction tomorrow. Are we going to do veto ceremony in the morning or what? And I think it's Matt that's actually reminding him, saying, "Oh no, there's no veto ceremony. There's no decision to be made. You can't pull one of them off because there's no one to put back on." So he's saying there's no veto ceremony. Just tomorrow night, you're going to stand up in front of everyone here in the entire world, or at least the viewers in the United States and Canada, and you're going to say who you're keeping and who you're sending out the door. So no veto ceremony necessary at that point in time. All right, a little later in the day, no dinner from Felicia. Nah, she's had enough. She didn't cook dinner. They got plenty of leftover. They got enough mac and cheese to last them for the rest of the week, I think. But no dinner from Felicia, so they're all just going to be on their own. Bowie Jane is talking about saying, "Yeah, we're just going to have to go back to eating like college students, just kind of grazing and all of that." A little bit later, Matt's talking to Jag about it. Matt says, "Yeah, see, we don't need the mamas for this next week." He says they serve their purpose. They let the dogs eat, and now we'll be fine. So yeah, he's feeling like he can survive without Felicia's cooking for one more week. We'll see come Tuesday and Thursday, Wednesday or so. I bet they're still missing some of her cooking, but he's feeling like they'll probably be able to survive for the next week, and they will be. All right, a little bit later in the evening. Did I tell you there wasn't a whole lot going on? We had a little bit later in the evening. As soon as they got the opportunity, Felicia's in bed, it seems like. So we had a lot of feeds that were nothing but Felicia snoring. So much for Operation Pressure Cracker and all that. They never did get to Felicia. She remained who she was. So we've got her snoring while they talk a little bit. We've got Jag and Bowie Jane upstairs sharing stories about being rule breakers. And I think if I remember, Bowie Jane was going to tell one story, but then she didn't want to say it in front of her mom and all that. But they talk a little bit about wine drinking and her being in a hostel and I don't know, just stories. She talks about getting a second piercing, but her mom not wanting her, being disappointed or something. Throughout some of these conversations, Jag kept saying, "And that was how long ago?" "Well, it was like 8 years ago." "And so how old were you then?" "And well, I was 27 then." "How old are you now?" It seemed like Jag was asking a lot of questions about her age, and maybe it's just him trying to place these stories and how old she was when these things were happening. Maybe Felicia mentioned something to him. At this point in time, does it really matter? Probably not, but it was funny watching him ask her ages a little bit. But again, just a lot of non-game talk, just talk about some stories, things like that. Now, eventually it does evolve into some game talk, and Bowie Jane eventually says, "So, as we're thinking, final two, Jag, are we final two here?" And Jag says, well, we are if we're says that if we're both at final HOH, then yeah, we're final too, which seems like kind of a wishy-washy answer. And I wasn't real sure when I heard it. Does he mean that if they win the first two parts of the HOH, they both make it to the final two, or they both make it to that final competition? At that point, they take each other to the end no matter what? It sounds like it, but does that mean if Matt is up there instead of one or the other, instead of Bowie Jane, that maybe Jag goes that direction instead? I don't know. I don't know if it's quite the definitive answer that Bowie Jane was looking for, but he does at least broach the possibility that it could be the two of them making it. And he's going to do more than broach it as we continue this conversation. Jag is saying, look, I trust Matt to be telling the truth, and all the stuff that's happened. I trust Matt, but everything is at risk right now with the decisions that are going to be made going forward. And he does mention, he says, if I was on the block this week next to Felicia and Matt was a veto holder instead of myself, I can imagine it would be very tempting for Matt to cut me loose and hold on to Felicia, right? So in other words, this stuff that Felicia mentioned, he's thinking about it. He's considering it. And the idea that if Matt's going to cut him loose, then maybe Jag doesn't have to feel so guilty about cutting Matt loose Sunday instead. So let's see what happens as we go forward with this. Bowie Jane and Jag are agreeing that if Matt does make it to the final two chairs, he wins it. They're both saying he'd win at 7-0. None of us are going to get any votes against Matt. Bowie Jane at one point says, maybe I get a pity vote from Suri or something. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, Bowie Jane. But they're both saying that it's going to be 7-0. Now they're both pumping each other up. Neither one of them wants to take the chance that the other person given the chance would take Jag instead of themselves. So it is in both of their best interests to both agree and go on and on that Matt's going to beat either one of us. Hence, why wouldn't we take each other instead? That's where they're steering this thing to. Jag is saying at this point in time that his main focus is just getting both of them to the final part of this three-part competition for the final HOH. That's what he wants. If he can just get Bowie Jane and Jag to the end, then everything seems like it's okay. He's saying that if they get to that point as he envisions, then the result is going to be the same no matter who wins the final part of that competition. In other words, if you and I both make it to the end, if I win, I'm taking you. If you win, you're taking me. If we can just make it to that point, we're gold and everything else is good. Bowie asked if Jag and Matt have a final two, which yes, they do. It's called the Minutemen. The Minutemen, Bowie Jane. But she asked if he has a final two with Matt. He doesn't really say. He says, we've been working together for so long, and so yeah, we're tight and all that. But he talks about that if he does cut Matt loose, that he would lose Matt's jury vote, that it would suck on a friendship level. But then he turns right around and says, but it has to be done, and I will do it. As much as I'm going to hate doing it, I will do what I have to do. Isn't that interesting, huh? So he mentions that. Now, here's the thing. I feel like there may be a little bit of a disconnect between himself and Bowie Jane, because I feel like Bowie Jane may be pushing potentially to send Matt out right now, or send Matt out on Sunday to keep him from getting into a final three. Whereas I feel like Jag is talking a little bit more about, I'll do it because I have to do it and everything else. But I feel like maybe he's talking a little bit more right now, at least, about the step from final three to final two to see who sits in those final two chairs. So I'm not sure that from a timing standpoint, they're necessarily on the same page, but I also think both of them are willing to look at both situations at this point in time. The key is that Jag is considering not taking the bromance to the final two, whether he cuts Matt on Sunday or come Thursday when they have to make that final decision. All right, Jag is also talking to Bowie Jane about what Felicia had told him earlier, that Matt had been willing to cut Jag. And he says, not just a long time ago, because Bowie Jane says, when was this? And he says, no, she says as early as or as late as yesterday, Matt was talking about doing this. Jag is concerned as well. He says, I don't know whether to trust Matt or Felicia on that. He says, but I'm also worried because Matt was in some alliances that I wasn't aware of. And why wouldn't he tell me that stuff? Well, because everyone had all kinds of side alliances, but he does mention that to Bowie Jane as well. And Bowie Jane, feeding right into it, says, "Well, it's because he wanted to cook you." Everyone's using this word "cook." I guess I'm out of the out of it a little bit. She said, "Because Matt wanted to cook you, Jag. That's why he didn't tell you about it." And Jag at that point says, I feel like first part of the season, maybe I wasn't really playing the mastermind game, but I feel like I've been doing better in the last half. He said, but have I been playing Matt's game all along? Is this all Matt's driving everything, and I've just been playing along and doing what Matt wanted me to? He's worried about that at this point in time. Bowie seeing some uncertainty in Jag's head at this time, says, "Well, all right, now look here, Jag. Are we still voting out Felicia on Sunday? Is that the game plan?" Jag says, "Yeah, we are, but I'm thinking about everything, Bowie Jane. But yeah, probably we're voting out Felicia now." Jag says, as he thinks about it, he certainly does understand that she and he would have a much better chance at making it to that final two chair if it was the two of them competing against Felicia as compared to competing against Matt. So he's thinking about it. He mentions that he's wondering if that's enough reason to keep Felicia compared to keeping Matt and the friendship and everything else that's involved with that. He says that he really wants to go to a final two with Bowie Jane. That part he knows about. Everything else, a little uncertainty, but he knows he wants to go to a final two. So in terms of this decision that has to be made on Sunday, Felicia versus Matt, he says, I know it's my decision as the veto holder, but since you and I are the two going to the final two, I want you to be part of that decision as well and help me make that decision. We all know how much Bowie Jane loves to provide input and make decisions in this game, right? So I'm sure she'll be all sorts of assistance to Jag on this particular little question. But he's saying he wants her input as he tries to decide. All right, we finally have, so that's all up in the HOH room. They finally transitioned down to the scary room. They had a situation. Matt was going to sleep in Corey's in the kind of that front bedroom where Corey and America were. And not sure why he's doing that. At one point, it was maybe talked about to irritate Felicia. I don't know why that would irritate her, but there's talk there. They're cleaning off Corey's bed and thinking they may use that, and or Matt may use that, and decides not to. Now here's another little kicker. They got a heater. Showed up in the comic room. I guess once you get into November, it gets a little colder in that Big Brother house. Remember, it's just really a soundstage with a house built into it. So I guess it gets a little cold that late in the year. So they finally got a heater. The day right after Cirie left, and she was always so cold in that house. Well, now they've got a heater that I think Matt used throughout the evening. But eventually we get Bowie and Jag still sleeping in a scary room, continuing their conversation from up in the HOH room. Jag is saying that he's just not sure who is telling the truth between Matt and what Felicia is telling him. He's saying that even if Matt really did say it and really did mean it, that Jag still wants to try to separate the game from the personal. And I get that. And I'm glad he mentioned that. The idea that he wants, even if Matt did mention this and intend it, I think what he's saying is that he wants to realize that Matt's just doing what he's doing to try to play the game. And he doesn't want to hold it against Matt from a personal level, from an emotional level, right? Look at the strategy. If Matt's intending to do this or had intended to do it, look at it from that standpoint as opposed to any slight to their friendship and everything else. And you've got to do that. Now, here's the thing. And the reason that Jag can do that is because Matt didn't win veto. It's a moot point at this point. So he doesn't have to worry about it too much. Where he does still need to be concerned, if Matt was willing to cut Jag at final four, then certainly Matt's willing to cut Jag at final three and go with Bowie Jane instead, right? I mean, you would think that's the case. So it certainly is something that Jag has to continue to think about and ponder as he makes his decision on Sunday. Bowie Jane asked Jag at one point, I thought this was interesting. Bowie says, look, I know you're talking about doing different things and all that. She's saying, if you were to cut Matt loose early, would the guilt that would you feel guilty for the rest of your life? And would the guilt that you felt in doing that, would it be worth it to improve your chances with the game and everything else? You've got to ask yourself that question. I think it was a great question for her to ask. Was there some ulterior motive? It almost, in saying that, almost seems like she's suggesting maybe don't send Matt out the door. And I don't know if because it's an ulterior motive that now she thinks that maybe Matt would be an extra competition after she's hearing this. Is Matt really going to consider sending Jag loose? And with that being said, would she prefer to have Matt on board, thinking now, if she's got Matt, that either Matt or Jag, either one would take Bowie Jane to the final two? So maybe she shifted what she wants done as well. Maybe Bowie Jane's going to start pushing that they go ahead and hold on to Matt also based on what she's heard. I'm not sure. It could just be her just helping him figure out a solution. Either way, it was a very valid question to ask, and he doesn't really have a good answer for it. Eventually, Jag says, you know what? I just feel like the best thing maybe is just we go to the final three. I think as Bowie Jane says, at that point, just may the best man win. I think at the end, my bet is still that Felicia goes home on Sunday, that Jag, as much as he's worried about all of this, at the end, Jag may not be the person that can cut Matt loose right now. So we'll have the final three of Bowie, Jane, Matt, and Jag, but he may surprise me. It's certainly something that he's considering. It's going to be a stressful 24 hours or so as Jag tries to figure out what he's going to do. And as he worries about it, is Matt going to pick up on that? Is Matt going to need to have some conversations with Jag as well? It could be an interesting 24, 36 hours. So we'll find out. With that, guys, everyone in bed by, I don't know, in bed, lights out by 1:30 or so, something like that. So it wasn't a horribly late night. So in summary, you have Jag won to veto. So now he's not going anywhere. He is in final three. Comes down to Felicia versus Matt. And there is a little bit of uncertainty on that as well. We will find out as we get into the next day. So until tomorrow morning, enjoy your Saturday. Aggies are playing, so gig 'em Aggies. Y'all have a fantastic day. I'll be back tomorrow morning to give you a new update, let you know what's going on. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.